already around here, and so I'm even 1 minute late and not even dressed respectively. What am I going to do with myself? All right, we are in Genesis chapter 34, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. That is correct. Genesis chapter 34. A little bit of an unusual story here, a deviation from the storyline that we have been noticing about Jacob and his dealings with Laban and Esau. Now he's going to find himself in a little bit more trouble this time because of his sons, but it's a crazy, twisted story. Let's go ahead and pray and jump right into it, shall we? Heavenly Father, we love you and we ask your blessing on our study this morning. Thank you for all that you teach us. Even when it seems a little bit out there, a little bit unusual, you have a reason for the lesson. May we get it today, please. In Christ's name we ask. Amen. All right, Genesis 34. At this point, Jacob has 11 sons. Benjamin has not yet been born. And he's got one daughter that we know of, and her name is Dinah. And so she is the child of Jacob and Leah. And Dinah gets involved here today. We're going to see the effects of our children and their behavior on our own lives as adults. Verse 1, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. So if you remember yesterday, Jacob settled and he built a house and he built a ranch and he was moving forward in his dealings and he'd separated from Esau. Well, now Dinah gets curious and so she heads out into the surrounding area and she's going to meet some people. Verse 2, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. So here is Dinah, someplace that she shouldn't be, and Shechem, the son of the prince, takes her and has relations with her, defiles her. He doesn't plan on taking her to be his wife at this point of the story. Verse 3, and his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you, give her him to wife. And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife. All right, so I know I read a whole third of the story there before commenting or saying anything about it, so let's go back. You've got Dinah, and she wanders into the surrounding territory. She finds Shechem there, the son of the prince, and he takes her and sleeps with her and defiles her. He then decides, you know what, I want to keep this girl. I want to make her my wife. Now, Jacob heard about what had happened. And at this point, he'd done nothing. Then his sons learn of what's occurred. They're furious and angry. And so at that point, we see that Shechem and Hamor come to their house and they try to convince Jacob and his sons to start intermarrying with one another. And what I mean by that is the descendants of Jacob intermarrying with the descendants of Hamor, and so basically breaking down the laws of separation here that the Israelites have been trying to maintain. And that's always a temptation, by the way. And it's always a temptation with good people. Sometimes, good people come to us, but they don't believe the Bible. They don't believe like we believe, but they're moral people and they seem nice enough. And so the devil will try to convince us, hey, it's okay to let down your guard. This isn't as important as you think it is. And that's what's happening here. Hamor, hey, we're good people, you're good people. Let's let our sons marry your daughters and your sons marry our daughters. You can come and set up some businesses in town and we'll just start trading back and forth and we'll just make ourselves one big community. Well, Jacob knows better than that. He knows that that's not what he ought to do. And so he doesn't make any decisions at this point. And then Shechem even ponies up and he says, look, whatever you want, let me know what you want and I'll give it to you. I want this woman to be my wife. Now let's talk about how this all came to be in the first place. There's a lot of mistakes being made here. And I'm going to be honest with you, not everybody's going to agree with me on my take on this, and that's okay. You don't have to. And usually when I say not everybody, I do mean more folks that have more of a liberal mentality in terms of their approach to life, responsibility of actions, and so forth. So here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on Dinah a little bit. You don't have any business being places you shouldn't be. Now, I'm not blaming her for what happened to her, but had she made different decisions, those things may not have happened. All right. Here's the thing. There's an idea going around in the world today that everybody ought to do right by each other. And I agree with that, by the way. That's the golden rule, right? Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I believe everybody ought to do right by each other. At the same time, I'm not naive enough to also believe that everybody's going to do right by each other. That's just irrational to think that everybody is going to treat everybody like they ought to be treated. Because of that, I know that there are people I'm not going to spend time with, and there are places I'm not going to go. And sometimes there are places I might go during the daytime that I'm not going to go at night. For instance, all these riotings and things that's been going on, I'll be honest with you, I've not spent any time seeking out any riots. You know why? Nothing good is going to come of it for my life. I'm not going to head down there even out of curiosity, even to get a sense of the scene, even to try to understand what's going on. You know what? I know what's happening down there. People are breaking the law. People that are not breaking the law are still going down there and trying to interact with these lawbreakers. And there's businesses being destroyed. There's livelihoods being ruined. There are things being stolen. There are people being arrested, pepper sprayed, tased, you name it. I don't need that in my life. Now, is it permissible for me to go down there and do that? Sure, everybody else is. This is America. I could do that if I wanted to, but I'm not going to because I don't want the trouble that's going to come with it. Dinah here, I think, was unwise in being someplace she didn't have any business being. That's not blaming her for what happened to her, but it may not have happened if she'd chosen to do something different. Shechem had no right to do what he did to Dinah, none whatsoever. But that doesn't mean there aren't guys like Shechem out there, right? And some people say that that's that's limiting people and saying that they're at fault for what's occurred to them. No, they're not at fault, but it may not have happened had they not made that decision. Those are two very different things. Oh, let's see here. What else? Jacob. It does bother me that Jacob doesn't respond to what happened. We do understand that at this time and the mentality toward females, ladies, was not the same as it ought to be. It's not what it is today even. And so remember, we talked about all the men that are listed here as born, and Dinah's the only lady. And I think it's because this story was coming up. But anyhow, I lost my train of thought all of a sudden. So Jacob, that's where we're at. Jacob, he doesn't handle this right away. Now, I will give him a little bit of room because maybe he was thinking about how to handle it. And that liberty has to be given to leadership. Sometimes followers are like, why don't they act? Why aren't they doing anything? Well, you know what? Sometimes we're thinking it through. Sometimes we're praying about it. Sometimes we're seeking the will of God. Sometimes we're giving it time and waiting. It's called strategy. It's called formulating a response rather than reacting. And that's wise. It's always wiser to respond than to react. And so he may have been doing that. And what we're going to see here is his sons decide, okay, dad's not going to do anything about this. I'm going to take matters into my own hands. A similar thing happened with David and Absalom. You know, Amnon raped his half sister Tamar, who was the whole sister of Absalom. And David didn't do anything about it at first. And so Absalom went away for a couple years. And then he came back, and David still hadn't done anything. Well, now, that's not a matter of needing some time to figure out what you're going to do. That's a matter of neglect. And so Absalom killed Amnon and handled it himself, and that's what I believe caused some of the trouble in the household of David. So here, Jacob's not doing anything. We don't know why. At the end of the chapter, we're going to see a couple statements that make me think we kind of know why, but we'll get there when we get there. So right now, Shechem is begging for intermarriage, and he wants to marry Dinah. Let's look at the response. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you. If ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters unto us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. So the sons of Jacob are lying to Shechem and Hamor and the other men. They're setting them up, is what they're doing. They're going to get revenge for Dinah's sake. And so they said, you know, we can't do this if you guys aren't circumcised. That's a deal breaker for us. But I'll tell you what, if you guys will all get circumcised, then you'll be like us, and we'll take your daughters, and you can have our daughters, and we'll be one people. So this is all a setup, though, remember. They weren't going to actually carry this out. Hamor and Shechem, they hear it, they're like, hey, we can do that. So let's see what happens. And the young men, verse 19, deferred not to do the thing. This is Shechem, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. So Shechem actually truly wants Dinah to be his wife, and so he gets circumcised immediately. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, these men are peaceable with us. Yeah, that's what they think. Therefore, let them dwell in the land and trade therein for the land. Behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. So Hamor and Shechem return to their own people, and they say, hey, we made a deal with the Israelites. They're going to trade with us. All their stuff will end up being ours. We're going to profit off of this financially. Plus, we're going to be one people. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. The only stipulation is they want us all circumcised. And the guys are like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and follow through. And so all the men of the city get circumcised. And here's where the deceit pops in. Verse 25. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that the two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. So there's that deceit that we read about earlier. They didn't ever intend to become one people with these, I think Hivites is what they were. They were going to set them up. Hey, you guys all circumcise yourself. And then they waited until they weren't able to fight back. They're sore on the third day. And so they go in, and Simeon and Levi, they just kill everybody. It's a total bloodbath. Then the rest of the brothers come on in, and they spoil the city. They take all the wealth, all the money, all the livestock. They take all the women captive. And so, man, it's conquering is what it is. Israel, the nation of Israel here at this point, which is Jacob and his sons, they go in and they destroy everybody because of what they did to Dinah. Now, I got to say, I can't find a lot of fault here with these guys. Dad didn't do anything about it, at least initially. And so they're gonna honor their sister and make sure they defend her purity. But look at here in verse 30. Here's Jacob's response to what his boys did. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "Ye have troubled me, to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house." So Jacob says, what did you guys do? I can't believe you took this into your own hands and you've done this. Wait until everybody else finds out what we did. You've just made us enemies with all the people of the land. But look here, look at how his sons respond. Verse 31, and they said, "Should he deal with our sister as with an harlot?" Wow. And I'm going to tell you, that's the end of this story. That's the last thing we read about this, and it's sort of left here inconclusive. Jacob and his sons, man, they're really struggling to come together on this. And this is where I'm not exactly sure Jacob ever had any intentions of defending Dinah's honor. I really don't know. I'm giving him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. At the beginning of the story, when he says, when he's not made a move yet, because he knows, and then he does tell his sons about it, but nothing happens. And so that's when Simeon and Levi, they make this plan, and they go ahead and just wipe everybody out. So, a few lessons here before we wrap it up. Number one, Dinah had no business being there. Number two, this isn't real popular these days, so bear with me. I believe that God has given two women men to help be their protectors. Women are not as physically strong as men, and there are evil men out there who would do women wrong. They would harm women. They would take advantage of them. And I'm not saying, by saying that, I'm not saying women are incompetent. I'm not saying they're naive. I'm not saying they're foolish or stupid or can't do some things to protect themselves. Not saying that at all. I am saying men are stronger than women. And when we go soul winning, I'll tell you, we go out and we go door to door and we go into some areas that they're not terribly dangerous, but it is a city and anything can happen. And we always let out a pair of men with a pair of women. We're not just going to leave the ladies all by themselves. This is Flint, Michigan, and we have 50 plus homicides a year, which I know is not incredibly a large number, but given the size of our city, it's a tall order. We've had upwards of 70 and 80 in a given year. We have been the murder capital of the world per capita, or maybe the nation, I should say, murder capital of the nation per capita many times. So we our city's not the safest. So we put men out with the ladies. Why? So they can serve as a protector. Like it or not, men are people are more intimidated by men than they are ladies sometimes, and just the presence of a man will be enough to detract from those who might do the ladies harm. So men are given to ladies partly to help protect them and keep them safe. Where were the men in Dinah's life? Why did they let her go to this place? For instance, if Shannon had said to me, hey, I'm thinking about going soul winning in a certain section of Flint Friday night about 11 o'clock at night. No, that's not happening. You're not going to go do that. Maybe that same section of town during the day, depending on who's with you, maybe not even that. Maybe only if I go. Maybe not even then. So God's given men to ladies to help protect them, keep them safe. So I want to know where Jacob was. This is his daughter, and he's not taking care of her where she is. I do the same with the ladies in my family, even with Winston. I want to know where they are. I want to know where they're going to be. I want to know why they're going to be there. And there are times when I say, I don't think I want you to go to that place. We sat down and gave them some areas yesterday to do some soul winning. And I specifically said, hey, go to this neighborhood. This is a good neighborhood to go to. This one would be okay also. This one's better. And so that's why God has given us to the ladies in part. Then what else here? Jacob doing nothing. You can't let this go, Jacob. You can't let them defile your daughter and just let it go. And at the same time, should the sons have just taken matters into their own hands without consulting Jacob? That probably wasn't wise either. You got to be on the same page. You got to come to an agreement. Hey, Dad, what are we going to do about this? Jacob says, well, we don't plan on doing anything. We don't want to cause a ruckus. Well, something has to be done. Let's figure out how to handle it. Maybe Jacob could have advised them, given them a different direction to take. Nonetheless, they didn't approach him, and they should have done that. At the same time, I don't have any problem with what they did. They went in and they got vengeance for their sister. Remember, this isn't a time of laws and judges and benches. This is the Wild West. This is every man for himself. They should have followed the chain of command, gone through Jacob, but to go in and defend the honor of their sister, I think was a noble thing to do. And then finally, I'm with them, that last statement. Jacob says, what are you doing? You've given me a bad reputation. And they said, are you going to let this guy treat our sister like a common harlot? And that's where the chapter ends. And that's a pretty strong ending, wouldn't you say? Sort of a cliffhanger ending, except the story doesn't pick up after that. But wild chapter today, huh? Saturday morning. Happy Saturday to you. You didn't know you'd start the day on an R-rated level like this, did you? All right, that's all I've got for you. Tomorrow morning, much earlier, chapter number 35 will be accomplished. And 7 to 7:30, if you can't catch us that early, it'll always be there for you to see. Thanks for listening. Like, share, love. I like it when you love it better. Anyhow, we'll talk to you tomorrow. God bless you.